Right, welcome everybody. Good morning. Another SDC webinar, this time with Rob Munro from the Institute of Manufacturing from Cambridge University. Sorry, Rob, I'll do the intro very quickly if that's okay. So we'll kick off in a moment, and I'll hand over to Rob shortly. Obviously, as you all know, these are part of a whole series of webinars. Please have a look at our website for any upcoming events and webinars that you may want to get involved in. Also, please have a look at our YouTube page where all the recordings of all the webinars you can find as well. There's lots of really good stuff there, so I would encourage you to get involved. Just before we kick off as well, I'd like to express my thanks to our sponsor for this webinar, which is MPA Group, looking after innovation funding to grow your business. So things like R&D tax credits, accounting and consultancy services. So please have a look at the website MPA Group. The website is mpa.co.uk. But thank you very much to them for supporting today's session, which is much appreciated. So please do have a look at them. They're SDC members as well, and you can find them in the SDC members directory as well. So please have a look there as well. In terms of the session today, I understand from Rob that he's quite keen to make it a bit interactive, and I think he'll be asking questions to all of you as well. So please either use the chat functionality for that, or by all means switch on your camera and or your microphone. But Rob will guide you through that. But very happy to make it a bit interactive when prompted. So please do that. And with that, I think all the admin stuff is sorted. So I'll hand over to Rob now to get things going. Rob, over to you.
Thanks very much, Pim. It's great to come back to Silverstone Technology Cluster. And today I've prepared for you a bit of a flavour of things that organisations can do to improve their technology innovation planning and become more successful for that. I'm Rob Munro, and I'm an industrial associate with IfM Engage. IfM Engage is the knowledge transfer business of the Institute for Manufacturing at Cambridge University. Okay. Let's think about why innovation and technology matters. Why should we even think about this in the first place? Now, many of you on the call, I guess T is in the title of Silverstone Technology Cluster. So you'll be thinking about technology and you'll also be thinking about business.
Rob, sorry to interrupt. We can't see your slides at the moment.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
Sorry, I did switch that up earlier. Apologies.
Okay, let me try again. Can you see them now? No?
Not yet, actually.
That's strange. Let's take a pause and just sort this out.
Just in case anybody's wondering, we did test this earlier and then it went fine.
Of course, it's not fine now.
Yeah, we can see your PowerPoint interface now. So I think you can go full screen, and I think we should be there.
Are we okay?
That's it.
Great. Sorry about that, everyone.
I think so.
You can see a picture of me on the screen and a photograph. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. But I wanted to introduce the session about why technology matters. And it can be at quite a big level. So we can see around us there are massive human challenges, planetary challenges at that kind of big level: climate change, resource depletion. How do we work the large environment that we've created? And so technology and innovation is, I would say, essential to be part of a transformation. So thinking about energy transition, thinking about how we survive climate change and adapt to the challenges that is already bringing. So companies, governments and agencies are already looking at that. But there's a lot to be done. Technology innovation plays a big part in that transformation. For businesses as well, they're looking to access new technologies. Why? Because it's about productivity growth. It's about revenue and profit growth, the financial factors, but new forms of value, new products, processes, solutions, services, some other form of value. might be knowledge value. So businesses are thinking hard about how to use technologies and as part of their innovation processes to deliver value for whoever they're delivering value for, customers, clients, downstream users. But also because, you know, having done that, surely it's fun to get involved in innovation and technology, and the management of that is a great way to carve out a piece in the world. Now, just on that, you might have seen that QR code, and I don't know if you're familiar with the LinkedIn app on your phone, but to use that, you go onto the LinkedIn app, go onto your profile, and just at the top of your profile, this is a little tech tip, by the way, I'll just give you that for your use and consideration, and you can use it yourself as well when you're presenting. So when you get into the LinkedIn app, at the search bar at the top, you'll find a little, what looks like a QR code in the right-hand side of that. So if you press into that, you'll get a QR code pop up, and you can use that for two things. One is you can scan it if you want to connect to me, but you can also get your code, and then you can share your code, save your code, and put it into your presentations. Just a little tech tip. Little sojourn there into some other form of technology. The session plan for today that I've prepared for you is to help you, give you some ways to think about making better decisions so you can focus, quite honestly, precious resources. Not, you know, small companies and large companies do have limited resources, and by focusing and deploying your precious resources in a better way, I would suggest you'll get improved business results and more enjoyment from that. So we'll go through 5 things. I'll just spell out the link, I believe, between planning or strategy and business performance. I'll suggest to you 3 broad types of questions that you must answer when you're doing strategic innovation thinking, planning, technology planning. Then we'll dive inside a space I've declared as the Innovators Workshop, and think about how you might design innovation processes, workshops, and so on to help you with your planning. You'll be all familiar with the innovation funnel, I'm sure, marketing funnel as an adaptation, and how approaches and workshop devices, let's call them that, can be applied into the funnel and to make it work better for you. And then think about the next steps you can take to improving your ROI, your return on innovation investment as you go. So that's the session plan. I plan to speak for another sort of 30-35 minutes. We'll have a stopping off point in a few minutes. I'll ask you some questions, and I'd like you to then have a think about those. You can either enter them into the chat, and I'll take off my screen. You can come onto the camera, and we'll have 5 minutes or so on some questions. A little bit about the Institute for Manufacturing at Cambridge University. One slide, I think, paints a picture of 1,000 words. On the left-hand side, it really all starts with, it becomes no surprise to you with research. So IfM academics are leading academics in the field. They go to work on managerially relevant research topics. Yes, for manufacturers, but not only for manufacturers. So for example, strategic road mapping emerged out of the research. Global footprint of manufacturing organizations emerged out of research to optimize the footprint of organizations, factories, whether they be in a network or around the world. Sustainability and sustainability thinking has been an important emerging topic. And of course, digitalization, automation emerged out of research. Now that research is well founded, well done, and underpinned. But we turn that into practice, and practice is ways of thinking about managerial topics like innovation and technology planning. And so there's a kind of toolkit, let's call it, around all of those topics that we can go and access. Being a university, of course, education is a critical part of that mission. So students come into the university, into the IfM for masters and PhDs. But also we run, taking that practice, in-house courses, open courses, all of which are now online. But I can imagine a day, I was speaking with Pim before the session began, where we will be getting back into rooms again. So that's what's going on that left-hand side. We do that very briefly for industry, companies of all sizes, for other universities, and for governments and government agencies. So helping governments in the UK and around the world figure out industrial strategies, for example. So here's some questions I'd like you to consider. What do you think about these questions? So have a read through these, and you can start to put those into the chat. And Pim's going to keeping an eye on the chat as well. So what do you do now when you're confronted with having to plan for technology and innovation? What do you use? What do you find is a successful approach? What's not working so well? What are the gaps in your planning? What do you feel or know is something that you want to work on, improve on? And who are you doing it for? Who are the stakeholders in your technology and innovation planning? So have a think about those questions. You can start writing them into the chat if you wish. I'm going to take my screen off and we'll go on camera and open the mics up for 5 minutes before we then move on with the presentation. Is that okay?
I kind of wonder with this question, Rob, as well, what the balance would be between, you know, making your plans and doing the research and doing the technology planning based on whatever the next commercial project is that sort of came your way, and sort of the stuff that you kind of want to do yourselves to progress your technology and stuff. That presumably there must be a balance somewhere. Would you distinguish that?
There is a balance, and you have to find it. That balance can, I guess, emerge or become a practice of how you do things, either on that particular topic you're researching or in the business. The business could take a strategic approach to kind of the portfolio of investments it makes, either in R&D or basic research or collaboration or product development or product improvement through the life cycle of products and services. So there's that sort of, I guess, portfolio that could be chosen by the senior team in the business, you know, certain percentage. Companies may, there's a thing called a golden ratio, which is the amount of funding, let's say, on incremental innovation on current markets and products, kind of breakthrough type or adjacent type activities in adjacent markets and products, and then breakthrough or radical. And you know, you'd spend less on breakthrough and radical, but it depends on your situation, your competitive environment as well. You know, how much innovation has been done in, say, smartphones over the last decade has been very significant. So, you know, lots of radical activity there compared to other areas or sectors that are more stable, less subject to change. That's a thought.
Mm.
Anybody else would like to? You know, what do you do now for your technology innovation planning? What approaches are successful? What are not successful? Where you have gaps you want to improve? And who are you doing it for? Who are your stakeholders in this? Enter it into the chat or come online. Paul, I see you've just come off. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I'm a patent attorney, so I'm a little bit downstream of this, as it were. But lots of my sort of startup and SME clients almost use us as part of their innovation planning. We go in and we do audits and see what they've got, see where their business is going, and see what innovations they've got coming through the pipeline, and we help them almost work out what their innovations might be going forwards. Because oftentimes we see smaller companies who just sort of take what they think are incremental steps. So they're not really planning, they're just trying to get their next project out the door and aren't really aware that they're innovating things as they're going along. So we help them to have those processes in place to keep track of what they're doing and making sure that they're moving in a good direction and protecting it as they go along. But we also help them much earlier on in doing sort of competitor landscaping type searches and seeing what their competitors are doing, so that they can either choose to stay away from a very busy area, or at the very least know that they are entering a busy area, and help them to where there might be innovations available in their particular field and products that they're
You made me think about, there's a model that IfM developed, colleagues in that research bucket some, I don't know, 15 plus years ago. It's a technology management model, ISEAP, how you identify, select, evaluate, acquire, and protect technologies. You've mentioned protection, but I think you've also mentioned a bit of identification potentially, and taking a strategic approach, therefore, to technologies is really value adding, I think, isn't it? Pamela's mentioned in the chat at Midlands Aerospace work with member companies to do technology road mapping, which is great to hear. That's very good. So yeah, technology road mapping, or strategic road mapping as it's sometimes called, is a great way to bring people around a problem, definitely in an alliance or a membership organization or some sort of forum, as well as obviously in companies. Great. Any other points there?
And just to build on that, if anybody's interested in technology road mapping, so we've done a session with Rob before, specifically talking about technology road mapping, which is why we were both quite pleased that this was mentioned, obviously. So if you want to find out more details, please have a look at our YouTube channel, because Rob's session on technology road mapping, you will be able to find there, and it's really quite useful. So
I think I'll move on in the interest of time. Yeah, okay. Let's go back to hopefully screen share this time, Pim.
I'll shout if it doesn't work. Is it looking promising?
Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I think we're back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. So here's some questions you might think about. You can take these away and use them. Addressable topics. They're quite easy to say, but they need quite a lot of thought on the back of it. So from a visionary perspective, what is your strategic vision for your organization that you find yourself in? What are the related opportunities that you have and threats that are coming present? How can you predict those? You might think about knowing that, how can we build a stronger competitive position in our organization, better products, services, solutions, more protected, greater value, and bring in deeper customer knowledge and competitor knowledge to do so. What ideas can you then deliberately go and create based on that, being informed by that, to create new value, value being products, processes, services, solutions, or knowledge, I guess? And how do you prioritize your innovation ideas for further development? And we'll come to that later on. The capabilities that you need to develop technologies and support innovations, identify them, and you can make choices about which ones to build, which ones to bring in, which ones to partner with to develop your strategy. And then how do you make that all happen? So have a think about those questions. Offline, take them away and use them in your business and your organization. I want to sort of make a link between strategy and performance. And this piece of work was done some time ago now, some 10 years, 11 years ago, by Bob Cooper, Scott Edgett, looking at specifically road. So it's about how road mapping, I suppose, brings a link between strategy and performance, and it's linking the best performers and the worst performers in these topics. So with regards to having clear objectives for product innovation, you can see that I'll not read out the numbers, but you can see a spread there between the best and worst performing organizations. The best performers bring product innovation part of business strategy. So really bring it into the top team, the boardroom, and business strategy. Making a longer term commitments, rather than shorter term, quarterly, and really sort of taking a longer view is helpful to bringing better performance. These ideas of are called strategic arenas, where to play in which markets and which topic areas, which kind of products therefore are we going to be working on to deploy our precious resources. So they've really worked those out. And then they've had strategic roadmaps in place with twice as many of the best performers using product roadmaps, but they don't need to go only products, they could be service roadmaps or whatever your innovations are. So there's a message there is, use strategic road mapping and incorporate that into your planning processes and cycle. One other link I found was quite interesting. So the question was, does strategic planning improve organization performance? Does it matter? Should we bother? And you can go in and read that, but I've just drawn out a couple of summary points, which says from this meta-analysis, analysis of analyses, strategic planning has a positive, significant impact on organizational performance. And it doesn't matter whether it's public or private sectors, and it doesn't matter which country it's in across the world. But also strategic planning is potent about the effectiveness of the organization, meaning whether it delivers the goals. So, if you're on the fence with respect to putting more strategic thinking into your innovation and technology planning, I'd say this answers that question. But this is for consideration. So I feel that very frequently innovation and technology planning fails to launch, put it that way, and it means that it doesn't quite translate into the cash flows of the future, or it stumbles along the way. The uncertainty overtakes us, and there's reasons for that. But even starting with planning, so I would just, for your consideration, is the board or your senior team or whoever is taking a strategic view of innovation and technology, giving technology the attention it deserves. And it can be, I've experienced it myself, where members of the board are quite diverse in the sense of their career paths and so on. They may not have a technological or an innovation type pathway to that, so might feel, I don't know, might be uncomfortable with technology, sort of not giving it the attention it deserves, or not seeing it as their job and pushing it down the organization. Also, perhaps strategic planning might be seen as, oh, it's too complicated, let's put it off, let's leave it off, let's not do it fully and well. And it doesn't take much to do it fully and well, is one message I want to leave you with. And also that perhaps innovation technology plannings might be weakly underpinned, meaning the decision basis is perhaps not as full as it could be and should be. And there's a lot on the back of these decisions because we're talking potentially about big investments, future of the firm stuff, and guess R&D managers and operatives in the organization may not have had been exposed, let's say, to the whole opportunities that they have in their toolkit, and I'll bring you to that in a moment. So have a think about those questions when you go back to base. Let's think about the 3 questions that I would suggest you must have answers for. Actually, there are 4, but let's keep it with 3. First of all, there's a kind of why set of questions. This is around drives of change, trends, and so on, what's happening in the environment. So know why you need to respond and change. Know why you need to focus your resources. What is going on that is requiring us to put some sort of response into place. What type questions is around the nature of our response and our priorities. Where do we set funding for, and what is the rationale behind that? And thinking about what the next generation products and services are that we should develop. This is the value streams of the future, and that's an important pipeline to consider. How type questions relate to really technologies and capability. So how are we going to advance the state of the art or our knowledge about something? How are we going to think about the investment decisions that we're going to need to make in either facilities, knowledge, R&D, staff capabilities, skills? And how are we going to decide which priorities we do in-house and we partner with? And what's the rationale for that? And these are the kind of questions you might. So the fourth point is when. So when does this all need to happen? So what if there was another way to, figure out answers to these questions that gives you the confidence to go forward with better innovation and technology planning? Now, because we're talking about innovation, I think it's fine to take a metaphor, and we're going to go into the innovators workshop here. Here's actually a master craftsman, and you can see all manner of tools around his workshop. You can see tools that are used every day, and there's other tools that are tucked away in the corner, which are used for very special jobs. But by being able to blend the use of these approaches, these literally tools, he's able to craft a beautiful piece. So I'd like you to carry that metaphor forward. Back to that slide I showed with IfM on the right, on the left-hand side with research. So this is all the work we do is founded on very good academic research, and you can see some snapshots, thumbnails of road mapping, modular approaches to technology management, scalable toolkit platforms, and so for most people, all you need to know that exists and we use that. And for some people, you might be interested in the references to go and read them for yourselves. And so you know where you are in that respect. But the key tasks in technology planning, there's a cluster of approaches around, let's say, topic exploration. So it's things like competitive analysis, Porter's 5 forces, and the +1 is digital now. Innovation matrix is where you're going to deploy resources into what types of innovations. Bit of portfolio thinking there. Understanding trends and drivers. What's going on in the world competitively? What's changing, what's shifting? And being very specific about that. We want to say more than climate change is a problem. We want to say climate change is a problem for us, how? And this is the nature of our response. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is a simple tool, but it can also identify the strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunities and threats for the business and blend that into our thinking. All of these giving perspectives as we explore topics. Strategic road mapping is a very important tool for us and for people we work with. And we call it agile scalable, meaning that we can quickly start to use it and we can scale it through the organization, through to national governments working out innovation strategy or technology strategy, through to the product team thinking about the product pipeline of the future, or across divisions or businesses. Okay. Portfolio matrix is a way of displaying information about where ideas, let's say, or innovations can sit in the myriad of potential ideas. It's about 1,000 ideas, where do we spend our money? Where do we put our engineers, for example? And then linking grids is a method borrowed from quality functional deployment that makes sense and connects lots of quite complex information as that information reveals itself. So topic exploration is one thing to do, but eventually you have to make decisions and generate options to make decisions. So you may use scenarios analysis. How does the world look under different scenarios in terms of political, geopolitical trends or economic trends, or what's going on in the world? That's a very useful way to deal with uncertainty in an uncertain world, and by making scenarios that you can actually get your hands around. You can think about make or buy. Do we make technology or innovations or knowledge, or do we partner, or do we just buy it in? And having a rationale for that, you can't, budgets are limited, and so having a way to think about how you bring in capabilities and knowledge is a good rationale to develop. At the start of a new topic, let's say, digitalization is, it's been around a while, but it's still fairly new for some organizations. What are the intelligence questions we need to know around this technology? What is relevant to our business, and then going out and finding that and bringing it in to answer critical technology questions. And the capabilities that we need are ways to think about what we bring into the company, what we choose to invest in, a new, let's say a digitalization skill set. Artificial intelligence might be one for companies where that's important. And you may want to wither or reduce capabilities because they become of no relevance or less important relevance. And then also thinking about the risks in technology and innovation, and being very upfront about that, and going understanding what those risks are. What are the gaps and the uncertainties that you need to work on to close down? And then eventually you need to tell someone about your story, the bets you want to make in the business cases. And so you're communicating business cases for innovations. Perhaps you're thinking about looking at the capability of the organization for its technology and innovation management, strengths and capabilities. You might need to or want to take a roadmap and turn that into a visualization, which is meaningful to wider stakeholders who are non-technical and possibly outside of the organization. And then good old key performance measures and indicators also play a part in that. So there's some tools around these topics. So where can you start? What first steps can you take in technology innovation planning? The MVP, the minimum viable product. Let's use that terminology. I would strongly encourage the use of roadmaps, roadmapping, which we've talked about before. Linked to that is this portfolio matrices, which is how to display information about potential ideas and priorities, and the uncertainty that goes with it. And linking grids is a way to connect all of that information together. It's there to help tell the story and look for gaps. If this technology is so important to us, how does that link to the innovation? If we're looking to play in a new innovation area, why is it we haven't got technologies around this to support it? That kind of narrative, that conversation that occurs. So that's a kind of minimum viable toolkit product, that you can get started in technology planning. And typically we run 1 and 2, what we call fast start S-plan workshops, meaning S-plans are terminology for roadmaps at the strategic layer of thinking, and fast start because you can get going quickly on developing those. Okay, so that's where you can start. But if you wanted to, I've called it sharpen the technology planning saw. You can start with that, but feed in these other approaches like scenarios planning, trends and drivers, maybe some creativity thinking, technology or market intelligence to inform your process for the development of, say, roadmaps or whatever plan you're coming up with. You may want to explore your competencies. You may want to explore the make or buy or risk. And you may want to visualize a roadmap, and you may want to, I would say certainly want to create a business case that starts to engage more stakeholders. So you'll be familiar with the innovation funnel, no doubt. And if you're not, on the left-hand side is a wide open neck where lots of ideas and information knowledge flow into, and you can see a gradually reducing funnel. moving from ideas which are low confidence but high potential to higher confidence and high potential and impact, to the point where you've actually identified applications that you're going to exploit and launch into the market. So you're moving from explore, develop, and exploit through the funnel. So we can look at how the approaches now map on. When we're developing our strategic landscape with feeding in trends and drivers type information, I'll not go through all of that, but you can read it back in the video. You can look at where value streams are generated. You can look at where capabilities, for example, technologies come into play, and other resources, human resources, facilities, and capital facilities. So that's what would feed into your strategic landscape at the start of a funnel exercise. Using that portfolio matrices, you can then look at the opportunity and feasibility of ideas which could create value for the future, and then prioritize them. And you could see some color coding on there, so green, amber, and red. So red is, low opportunity and/or feasibility. So let's just get rid of those. Green is certainly high opportunity or moderate opportunity and high feasibility. So let's certainly do those. And amber, we don't know. So we're looking to close down the uncertainty about why they are amber, and hopefully move them towards, in a genuine way, high opportunity and feasibility to take forward. When we've selected some high potential ideas, we, back to road mapping, may want to, we would typically use a topic roadmap or a mini roadmap to really explore that idea, to flesh out the options and potential directions an idea can take, an innovative idea can take. And then we may want to, I would say would want to, go back to the opportunity and feasibility assessment as we explore the idea with better information. And then there's a tool that we have called T-Plan, which is, again, a kind of road mapping tool. It is a road mapping tool, but it's about developing granular detail about the features and factors that a product or service would need to have as part of that. And then developing, I mean, these are all thumbnails, so you're not meant to read them, but a template for a business case that gives quick summary information for other stakeholders and to make decisions and to move ideas rapidly down the funnel. And you may inform that with more technology intelligence, and we have some processes around that, and that make or buy dilemma. It might not be a dilemma, but the make or buy decisions that you want to follow. So that's how we've developed a minimum viable product toolkit. We've expanded that. We've mapped that onto the funnel. And you can see here that there's actually a process to take a topic through to develop high potential, high impact ideas that will create that value in the future, with all the decisions that we need to fill in. I want to just jump onto a case study for a couple of minutes, and it's quite simple, but it was quite sizable. And we were developing technology strategy for a global materials producer. And we were really aligning what they'd already done in terms of corporate strategy and developing technology strategy for their innovations in the future. So they'd started with a business strategy. They got that, great. They looked, at the scenarios, the 4 scenarios that are important to them for their business strategy, because they're in a resource intensive, capital intensive world. And that was then able to feed an initial layer of strategic road mapping, and also to generate more vision for the roadmaps. And we identified a number of application areas which we could then dive deep into. So by combining and designing a toolkit approach around these applications, we've fed the ideas through a process, including an idea generation in each application area, looking at technology investigation, acquisition, intelligence to fill out the basis of good decision, and then built initial business cases. Now, this was quite transformational activity, so the organization needs to be in a fit state to, if you like, deliver on the ideas, both in terms of generating ideas and then managing and nurturing through the process to revenue out at the end. And so we needed to consider what I've called strategic organizational development, but is the capability of the organization to deliver, essentially. And that is a workshop-based process that takes a number of days, a number of sessions in a number of days. But you quickly get through this. You quickly get the right people into the room to bring their information, bring the gaps in the questions, to fill out the gaps and fill out the information gaps and be able to build a business case. And then that gives a portfolio for the business teams to think about, where do we back? But they've got the confidence that the decisions are well underpinned, or as well as they could be. So coming to a conclusion, I think, summarize, implementing this kind of approach brings several improvements for a business. I think one is around speed and rigor. So all of that doesn't need to take a long time, but it does need to be done, I would contend, because we need rigorous answers about technology and innovation. It's incumbent on us as leaders of innovation and businesses to be able to answer the questions about where to deploy resource of the organization. There's also something about focus of resources and going to high potential growth, or whatever the outcome is that we're looking for. And again, it's about resources, thinking about the impact of an idea on an engineer, knowing that her activity is going to be well received and actually contributes to the future of a company. There's also that future proofing of the company and the firm by doing this and placing better bets about innovation and technology. I think and studies show that the return on innovation investment is boosted. So having the toolkits, having the capabilities in the organization, all are a pathway to a better outcome for a business. So if you're interested, and if you want to know more, you can book a call with me. And there's a neat little link there, which books straight through to my diary. I would strongly encourage you to sign up for a regular newsletter format called IfM Insights, and you can follow that link and sign up there. It gives you events, news articles, thought leadership pieces. I think you'll enjoy that. And also look on that link there and book time on courses. There's in-house, and also we can design in-house courses, and we do knowledge transfer and coaching projects. So that's what you can do if you want to take any of this stuff forward, and I'll be happy to speak with you. We've got some good time to stay on the line. And Pim, have we got any questions coming up? Or perhaps we can just open the microphones.
Yeah, I don't think there's any particular questions coming through on the chat, but by all means, please do that. But obviously, I think if anybody wants to ask a question, probably best to just sort of switch on your camera and your microphone and fire away. Thank you very much for that, Rob. Really, really interesting stuff. I think one of the things that I was kind of wondering about, if I may open the Q&A session, is presumably there must be a balance that you try to find between kind of like the horizontal innovations and kind of like what your focus is, because we have found with sort of a number of organizations, and in fact we have an event coming up in a few weeks that looks at kind of like game-changing technologies that was originally developed in one market, but then found an application in another market, which really disrupted that particular scene. But from a planning point of view, it must be it must be quite difficult, or I'd be interested to find out what your thoughts are on, do you keep like a laser line focus on, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, this is the sector that we work in, and that's what we're doing. And at what point do you open that up to kind of go, well, actually, let's scan around other markets to find out where, can we apply that technology there, or do we have certain capability and skills that we could bring to that particular area? Yeah. Presumably that there must come an ideal point where you can do that, or not, or am I simplifying things too much?
Well, if you took a polar world where you're only laser focused, you'll get the results you're due. If you're not looking, if you're not looking at the terrain around you, you'll get ambushed. So there's something a business needs to find, the split, the balance, whatever, for itself. So you do, yes, you need, maybe it's how you organize the governance you put in place, where you've got, execution teams with laser focus doing that. But at the front end, and almost like your systems of scanning, technology watch, technology scanning, market intelligence, just sort of all the while doing that, and just feeding in, breaking that down, taking meaning and sense of it, and putting that into the business. Because if you think about the funnel, you're then feeding another funnel, if you like, another topic area. So that's how I would position that.
Excellent, thank you. Really interesting. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments that I would like to bring in? I'll stop the screen sharing so we can see people wanting to engage if they want. Any comments or questions from anybody for Rob? Please make sure you take the opportunity to pitch your questions to the expert in the room right now. He's here. I'm always very keen that people do that. So in terms of the, some of the stuff you talked about, and obviously you talked about some of the tools that you guys can provide, and obviously how they can engage with you. And obviously, we have a partnership with you guys anyway, and we do share your events to all of our membership and things. But are there other resources that people can engage with that kind of like are freely available, or something that's accessible to them, where they can?
Yeah, so yes, so freely available resources. If you follow, actually the URL on the title page will take you through to the Engage website, and from that you can also get into the IfM website. And the IfM website is quite vast, I would say, and has all sorts of, so spend a bit of time navigating that, because you might stumble across something that is interesting to you, and there'll be some freely available reports. Recently there was a report done on, for those interested in productivity in the UK about that. There's one of the research units is based on, or looking at policy for industrial policy, and so it's very well connected into government. So you can do that. Through Engage, you can also sign up to webinars that happen from time to time. And so they'll be on different topics. So yeah, they're all freely available as well. There are case studies as well, and that they're freely available, and they can provide inspiration and guidance. So if you're thinking about, improving, or want to, have a question, you can go and find that out, and take that to your colleagues in the organisation. Okay.
Excellent. Paul wants to come in, it looks like.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, thanks. Really interesting. I suspect this is a really difficult question, but do you have any sort of rule of thumb for the amount of time / resource to use planning, technology, innovation, planning for the future, as compared to doing what you're doing, what you have to do now? Is there something that you sort of generally say to people as a right, spend X% or spend this amount of resource, that sort of thing? As I say, difficult question.
Yeah, no, I don't have a rule of thumb, but it needs to be suitable and sufficient. I would say. You need to get the results from your planning. I don't want to leave you with a message that it's complicated and difficult to do, because that's point two about why technology planning fails to launch. This is an agile approach, meaning get there faster, see what you find out, get some preliminary answers that you can then build cases on where it makes sense. So this is all about kind of your own resource efficiency and effectiveness around that, using point three of why technology planning fails to launch, better approaches for making decisions. So that's how I position it. So would you, I know you wouldn't say this, but would you not do a business plan or a business strategy? Companies do that periodically, they'll review that. So maybe there's an element in your business strategy that is, tell me about the technology part of that, tell me about the innovation strategy part of that, and connecting those pieces together means the organization is well aligned, connected, integrated, synchronized.
And it's taking the time to take that step back and look at the strategic vision rather than just occupying yourself with the day-to-day.
Yeah. Is that okay, Paul?
Yeah, no, brilliant. Yeah, very much so. And it's what we try and tell people we work with as well. Sort of the third level of that is building in the sort of IP strategy as well. Okay, this is your business plan, this is your technology plan and innovation plan. Well, how do you link those two together? And actually often IP comes in there to join those two things together. But,
well, it's a bit, when you're starting this out, I would suggest, it might be, for an organization who's never done this sort of thing before, it might be slow and clunky, but, or, bit of a hiccup here and there. I would suggest try that minimum viable starting point, use road mapping to explore, how did road mapping work for us in this occasion? Where has it taken us to? What difference has it made? And it will make differences in what we would not have done or what we did instead. And then you can say, well, actually, here's the business case for doing this and doing more of it. And from that, it's think of it from a change management perspective. You're building in some momentum to moving a flywheel to get going, more planning, better planning, bringing in other tools along the way and other approaches. Yeah, success stories work. So create a success story.
Awesome. Pamela, did you want to come in, given that you have on?
Yeah, I just thought it was worth asking. So, we at Midlands Aerospace Alliance, we work with all sizes of organisations, but we do have quite a focus on smaller organisations. Do you find that you work differently, or different things work depending on the size of organisation, or maybe just the character of how interactions go? Do you notice that? Do you get much? Do you work much with small organisations yourself?
Yes. Yeah, we do. So I would say this planning approach is scalable and agile, so that it scales up to the largest multi-billion organizations down into SMEs as well. We've supported many SMEs, for example, through sharing and growth program. And there could be sizable SMEs, but the approach works. It's really, the commonality is the design and the format of thinking. The thing about SMEs is you've got people wearing different, somebody might be wearing 3 hats.
Yeah, that's what I was
commercial, strategy, product, I don't know. But whereas a large corporate would have you could have very specific focus, and that's how large companies organize. But it scales to whatever the situation is, Pamela.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Right, I'm conscious of time, but is there anybody else who has any comments or questions that I want to bring in?
Yeah, any questions you have around this topic would be fine. And if you want to connect with me or send an email afterwards, happy to do so. If a question comes to mind, I'll do my best to answer it for you.
Yeah, so we will share Rob's details in the follow-up email, and of course we'll include the recording of this presentation and also his slides. So you know, that's all coming your way. So do feel free to follow up with Rob afterwards online. I think then we'll start to wrap it up and leave it here. But Rob, thank you very much. Very insightful as always. And
I'm happy
I think we're doing another one with you later on in the year as well, so we can look forward to that. But thank you for that. Really good stuff. So I'll start to run a little feedback poll here, so we can get your thoughts on you know, what you thought of this webinar, but also to help us figure out what you would like to hear more about, so we can start planning with that for the future. So if you wouldn't mind sort of following that in, that would be great. In the meantime, I would like to once again thank our sponsor, so MPA Group. I know they shared a guide with us with regards to R&D tax credits. So obviously, if you're going down the innovation path and you're planning, you know, if you're not already considering R&D tax credits or are involved in that area, please, you know, have a look at the guide, have a look at the MBA website, and see how they might be able to help you and what you can do there. So I think we'll leave it here. Obviously, please, you know, complete the questionnaire, and then you know, after that you're free to go. In the meantime, I'll say goodbye to the audience watching via YouTube. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. I think people say something to do with algorithms. So please do all of that, and hopefully we'll see you again at a future one. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.